Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. If you're listening to the show for the first time, welcome to the show. This is the show designed to change people's lives for the better using the latest advances in drug-free solutions to today's very worst health problems out there. And that's the aim to do this show here every single week. I've consulted thousands of patients over the last 20 years in practice, and that experience has allowed me to discover some underlying causes of people losing their health at the rate they are these days. And that's what we talk about every week, are what those causes are. And we go into that every single week on the show. And I really work hard to bring you guys the latest research and developments in the field of natural health care, because the truth is we've made great strides in the ways that we get sick people well using some of these alternate type treatments. And we've been able to help thousands of people turn their lives around and reverse this sort of steady decline that we see in people's health that so many people out there are experiencing. Just this steady declining of their health, getting a little worse and a little worse every single year. I'm here with my co-host, Brandon Como. Brandon, how are you today?
Doing well, Doc.
Man, Brandon posts a show on KPEL on the KPEL website each week. And so if you guys miss any part of this show, Brandon posts it. Usually you have it posted by the next week, right, Brandon?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, we usually post it by Monday.
And they go to KPEL 96.5.
Yep, KPEL965.com, and you'll see it. And it normally has the show's title in it, Get Well Acadiana, and it has whatever the topic that you're talking about in there as well in the title. So definitely. And
for anybody who don't know Brandon, if you don't know Brandon, you don't listen to this channel very much. He has his own show called Offsides Weekdays at 4 with Shannon Wilkerson. It's a great show as well. Now, on last week's show, we were pretty thoroughly discussing thyroid disorders, and I got tons of questions about that. I mean, the questions just blew up about thyroid function and what it is and what it does. And I came to realize, Brandon, looking at these questions, that I really went too fast and really overshot what people know about the thyroid gland and what it does. And, many people didn't even know where the thyroid gland was in the body. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to step back just a little bit and kind of start over with that. And I wanted to start from the very basics and explain to you guys how important the thyroid is. And you know what? If you're listening and you don't have thyroid problems, you still need to hear this, because we find many times that people are tired or can't lose weight or, don't sleep well, and we find out that they were blaming it on old age or something, and it turned out it had been their thyroid all along, even if they've been told their thyroid was normal. So we're going to get into all that. And, the thing about the thyroid is that it's something that you really want to pay attention to because it's so important. Every single cell has a thyroid receptor on it. And if you've been told you have thyroid problems and you haven't researched the thyroid a little bit to even see where it is in the body, I want to encourage you to be a little more proactive than that. If somebody tells you you have a problem with an organ system, in today's healthcare system, guys, in the environment that we have in healthcare today, you want to do some research yourself. You'll want to look that up. The internet is a huge information source for you to research these things, and you can be your very best doctor. And some doctors can't stand it when their patients look stuff up online, Brandon. I know we hear that kind of stuff all the time, but I'm not sure why in the world they would feel that way unless there's a lot of new research and developments that they're not up on. But I always thought that was kind of strange. The internet is a huge source of information to learn why your organs are and what they're there for and what they do. And when it comes to the thyroid gland, guys, your thyroid basically runs how you feel. It runs your metabolism. It determines whether or not you feel energetic and happy and motivated. And so I realized that I needed to back up just a little bit and explain a little bit more of the basics of the thyroid and what it does. So guys, your thyroid is a butterfly-shaped organ that's located at the base of your neck, in the front, just under your Adam's apple. And what it does is it regulates the way your body uses energy. So it's critical to the regulation of almost all body functions, and it's part of your endocrine system, which is made up of glands that produce and store hormones and then put those hormones into the bloodstream to change the way your cells behave in the body. That's what hormones do. They usually either speed up or slow down things. Now, your thyroid gland uses iodine from the foods that you eat to make two main hormones, T3 and T4. And it's very important that your thyroid is neither too high nor too low. And the thyroid is regulated by thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH, and that's actually produced by your pituitary gland. And that's part of your brain. So your pituitary gland releases TSH, or thyroid-stimulating hormone, and that either speeds up or slows down your thyroid gland. And like I was talking about last week, TSH is usually all they ever test for whenever they're checking your thyroid. And even then, they use these ridiculously huge ranges to say that it's normal. And many times we find that that's not normal. Now, keep in mind, your TSH levels are the opposite of your thyroid levels. So, if your thyroid levels are too low, meaning you're hypothyroid, that means that your pituitary will produce more TSH, or thyroid-stimulating hormone, to tell your thyroid to speed up the process. So if you're hypothyroid, you will have a lot of TSH. And just the opposite, if your thyroid levels are too high, your pituitary will stop producing TSH, telling your thyroid to slow down. That's why if your TSH, if your thyroid-stimulating hormone tests high, you're low thyroid, and if it tests low, you're high thyroid. So it's the opposite. People get confused about that all the time. They'll say, well, doc, my thyroid hormones were high. Why are they giving me thyroid hormone? Your thyroid stimulating hormones were high. That's why they're giving you thyroid hormone, because it's not working. It's too slow. Now, your thyroid hormone travels in your bloodstream and it reaches every single cell in your body. And thyroid hormone regulates the speed at which your cells metabolize, the speed at which your cells work, the speed at which your body is active, and which your cells function and do things. That's why when you're hyperthyroid, meaning your thyroid is overactive, you will get symptoms of being overactive, like irritability, nervousness, anxiety, hyperactivity, sweating, and hot all the time, like things are speeded up too much. You may even get hair loss or have light menstrual cycles. Now, all of those are symptoms of hyper or too much thyroid hormone, meaning it's working overtime. That's like if you get in your car and you leave it in park and press the accelerator all the way to the floor. Everything is just over-revved. And that's what happens in your cells when you're hyper. Now, symptoms of hypothyroid, meaning that you have too little thyroid hormone, everything would be slowed down. This would give you symptoms like being tired and fatigued and difficulty concentrating and dry skin and depression. You would be more cold all the time, not hot. So in other words, your whole system is shutting slower or down. And that's what's very important here, is that balance. You don't want to have too much and you don't want to have too little. You want to have that sweet spot. Kind of like if you've ever been in your car and you're trying to set your cruise control right at 75, your cruise. And if you hit the button one too many times, you're like 78. If you hit it one too many times down, you're like 70, 73. You're trying to hit that kind of sweet spot. It can speed up and slow down. That's what your thyroid does. And that's what TSH does. TSH is kind of like that cruise control. Is it going to speed it up or slow it down depending on what's going on in your body? Now, TSH is not the only thing to check whenever it comes to thyroid hormone. that's only one parameter in this complicated system. So only checking TSH, saying your thyroid quit working, putting you on something for the rest of your life is not a very thorough evaluation. Just looking at your TSH and making a judgment call about this whole system leaves a lot of unknown factors in the diagnosis. And in order to end up with usable thyroid hormone, there are several steps that your body has to go through in order for you to end up with this right balance of thyroid hormones. And you have to evaluate every one of these steps along this assembly line to determine where the body is breaking down if you're ever going to get in the ballpark of figuring out why this is really happening. Now, if you're not interested in why it's happening, then it doesn't matter. You just low thyroid, take this, and job is done. So the problem with doing that is that you never got to the underlying reason that the body has stopped working in the first place, and that could lead to more serious problems down the road, sometimes very serious. You know, I mentioned last week that I had a patient come in as part of our weight loss program not too long ago, and her complaints were difficulty losing weight, and she was tired all the time. And so during her consultation, she mentioned that she took thyroid hormone. And she said, yeah, I went to the doctor, my thyroid had quit working, so they put me on hormones, but it's all fixed now. It's all good. That's not the problem. And so I started asking her some more questions. Well, did they find out why your thyroid wasn't working? Well, no, they never mentioned that. Did they test you to see if it was from an autoimmune problem, meaning your immune system is attacking your thyroid gland? Well, no, they didn't check that. Did they test you for thyroid cancer? No, it was just low thyroid hormone, take hormones, and end of story. And so after further testing her, we found out that this patient actually has double Hashimoto's thyroid autoimmune disease. And that means that her immune system is attacking and killing her thyroid in the two different ways that it can be attacked, not just one. And so that's not even a thyroid problem. That is an immune system problem. We're not even on the right system with this patient. The thyroid is the victim, and it's being attacked by the immune system. So I have two big problems with that. Number one is that up to 50% of the time, if you have one autoimmune condition going on and you ignore it, your immune system will turn and start to attack another part of the body. So by ignoring this autoimmune problem, then you may end up with another autoimmune problem like, rheumatoid arthritis or Crohn's disease or MS or lupus or any of these other autoimmune diseases. And the second big issue I have with it is that the way the immune system attacks the thyroid gland, the second way that it does it, new studies show that can turn into thyroid cancer if it's not caught and corrected in time. So this lady thought her thyroid had been handled. She said, well, it wasn't working, and I'm taking these hormones, and my numbers look pretty good, so, I guess that's all there is to that. It wasn't all there is. There was a whole lot more to the story that had never been fully checked. So we're going to get into all of the details about the thyroid today and how important it is, and we're going to talk about proper thyroid function and things that you should know about. And so we're going to break down each step in this assembly line process, and I think it'll be very clear to you kind of why, some of these things are so important that we look at. And also, I wanted to let you guys know before this next break that I'm hosting a free community workshop called 4 Secrets to a Healthy Thyroid. It's going to be July the 2nd at 6:30 p.m., and you can leave your name and number on my machine, and we'll get back with you on Monday and book your seat. You will leave there with the best understanding of what's truly going on under the surface that could be causing you not to feel like you used to or not to feel like yourself. So even if you suffer with fatigue or have difficulty losing weight or are cold or hot all the time, or you have anxiety or depression or brittle nails, any of these things, you want to come see if it could be your thyroid gland causing it, even if you've been told it wasn't. Now, especially things like brain fog and, just not feeling yourself, all of these things can be associated with the thyroid. The workshop is July the 2nd at 6:30 p.m. in Broussard. If you're interested, you can call my office at
7174 and leave your name and number on the machine. And when we get back to the office Monday, we will give you a call and give you some more information on it and book your seat. Now, the workshop is Monday night, and we're not going to be able to call you until Monday morning. So, hang out by your phone Monday morning. Make sure you have your phone with you because we will need to get a hold of you Monday morning if you call. So leave your name and number on the machine, and we'll give you a call on Monday. It's 837-7174. That's 837-7174. Stay tuned. We're going to be right back.
Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. Thank you so much for joining us on the show today. The goal of this show is to try to help some of the 30 million Americans out there suffering from thyroid disorders, and half of those 30 million don't even realize that their thyroid is responsible for how bad they feel, and the other half don't understand the importance of getting to the underlying reasons that these things are occurring in the first place. So many of you out there listening to this may not be feeling yourself because your thyroid is not working correctly, and either you didn't know it or told that it was okay. So even if you were told that your thyroid is fine, you still could feel bad, and you may be suffering subclinical thyroid problems. So symptoms of subclinical thyroid problems are low energy, especially if you wake up tired after adequate sleep, or things like mood changes such as depression or anxiety. Great difficulty losing weight is one of the number one things that we see with a sluggish thyroid, or especially this kind of steady weight gain, even though you don't eat bad. And also, your thyroid can cause some digestive issues like slow bowels or bloating, and all of this could be as a result of a sluggish or subclinical thyroid type problems. And what that means, subclinical thyroid problems means that your blood work didn't fall outside of these huge normal ranges they use to determine if it's a thyroid problem or not. But the numbers are still bad enough to make you feel bad. So an example is they consider normal TSH which is thyroid stimulating hormone. They consider normal TSH from 0.3 all the way up to like 5.6 to be normal healthy thyroid levels. But you can feel terrible and be a 0.3 or 0.4 or even a 0.5. But if you fall within that normal range, it is said that the thyroid is quote-unquote normal. So if you're a 0.30, that means you're fine and it's not your thyroid. But if it's 0.29, now all of a sudden it is your thyroid and you have a problem. I think you all will agree with me that that doesn't make a lot of common sense whatsoever. You can feel terrible at 0.4 or 0.5, so you have to look at the whole story. You have to be willing to take the time to dig a little bit deeper into these kind of problems. So in functional medicine, in what we do, in our programs, we use what is called optimal ranges, which are different from these huge normal ranges that you normally hear about. Optimal ranges means, what does it really need for you to feel good? What does it need for you to be considered a healthy person and not just alive? So in other words, this would be numbers more like, instead of 0.3 all the way to 5.6, might be from something like 1.5 to 3 would be considered more of what an actual healthy level would be. And so it's not okay with me just to look at one or two factors and patch this problem up and sort of kick the can down the road. And a lot of people out there are frustrated with that and searching for answers. And that's why I do these shows and do the workshops that I do, like the one I'm doing on July 2nd, called 4 Secrets to a Healthy Thyroid. So people end up blaming it because they were told their thyroid was normal. They say, well, maybe I'm just getting older, or maybe I'm supposed to feel this way. Well, I know I've been kind of busy lately, and it doesn't have to be that way. A lot of people are busy, and they don't all feel bad. A lot of people are your age, and they don't all feel bad. So don't blame it away on something when there could be something under the surface
actually causing the problem. So we have to make sure that there is a proper balance of thyroid hormone, not too much and not too little. And it's very important that whenever we do find that you have a thyroid malfunction, that we ask the question, why? Why has the body begun to malfunction in this area? And is there anything I can do to get those cells to work better? And the truth is, guys, the answer to that is usually, of course there is. There's tons of things you can do to get the cells working better. But that's the question that we begin and end with. Why are the cells doing what they're doing? And is there anything I can do to change the way those cells are working for the better? And that's why for us in natural health care, it's important to know all the numbers. And it's important to know each step in this assembly line to end up with usable, healthy thyroid. Because we want to see if there's anything we can do along that step or along that assembly line to try to help the body work better in that area. It's not just low hormones, add some. We have to look deeper into it. Why is the body not working the way it is supposed to work? And is there anything we can do to get it to work better? And if so, what? And so these are profoundly important questions if you're ever going to feel the way that you should feel and lose weight the way you should lose weight and have the energy you should have and feel sharp in the brain without all this brain fog. And all of this stuff matters, guys. You have to look at all of these details. And that's why I'm hosting this workshop, because some of this stuff is hard to explain on the radio. You know, when we start going over some of these numbers and labs and body functions, you know, I try to do the best job I can, but this stuff is hard to explain over the radio. And, you know, at this workshop, I'm going to be able to draw out the entire assembly line process that your body goes through to end up with healthy, normal thyroid function. And we're going to take each step of the assembly line and talk about what could be going wrong to move forward to the next step. And when I do that, many people have this aha moment, like, oh my gosh, I do have that problem. And that's used to make that. And you can start to see and put a picture together of the big question of why your body is doing what it's doing. Now, many times folks figure it out themselves why their body isn't working just by seeking this knowledge, just by looking at the different assembly line steps and what it takes to move forward. So you have to take action. And it's important for you guys to know, if you want to feel better, you have to be willing to dig into ways you can get better. Don't wait until something really dangerous happens and then hope modern medicine can bail you out from that. Because the healthcare system that we're dealing with right now, that can be a pretty risky proposition to do. That can be a pretty scary thing to put off your problems and just patch them up until something really serious happens and then hope that this modern healthcare system can bail you out. So if you have something going on, I want to encourage you to do something about it. Come spend an hour of your life, an hour out of your, your entire month to try to learn something about ways you can change your future and change your health for the better. And that's why I do these workshops. My mission, my purpose is to try to help as many people as I possibly can solve their health problems so they can live a long, healthy, functional life. So if you want to come to the workshop, it's going to be July the 2nd at 6:30 p.m. It doesn't cost you a thing but an hour of your time. And if you want to register, that number is 837-7174. That's 837-7174. Just leave your name on the machine. When we get back to work Monday, we'll call you back. Now, the workshop is this Monday coming up. So be by your phone Monday, because we're going to call you when we get to work and make sure that we book your seat. And if you leave your name, it will guarantee that you get a seat. We have a limited seating available, but if you call and leave a message, we will make sure that we get you in and we get you a seat. The number's 837-7174, and we're going to get more into these 4 secrets to a healthy thyroid when we get back. So don't go away.
Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. Thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Now, before break, we were discussing things that could make your thyroid break down and stop working, and how important it is to figure out what that is that's interrupting this assembly line of hormonal production. So I wanted to get into a little bit more in this segment on what it is, what can stop the thyroid from actually doing its job. Because the question of why the body is not producing this proper balance of thyroid hormones is what we all should be talking about. But before we talk about what it could be, I wanted to take a minute and talk about what it's not. First of all, it's not normal. Your organs don't just stop working and go on strike or just quit one day and walk off the job. It is not normal if you have an organ that has stopped working. So don't let someone tell you that. Well, it just happens sometimes. That's not true. It doesn't just happen sometimes. It's not normal for an organ to just decide to stop. I mean, you wouldn't accept that with your car. If I told you, if you were going to go buy a Lexus, and then the Lexus dealer was showing you around the car, and he said, man, this is a great car, but, every now and then it's going to quit working. Perfectly normal, and you would never buy that car. It's not normal for a car to just quit working. Now, maybe if it were a 1978 Ford Pinto or something, it might just quit working. But what kind of body do you want? Do you want a Ford Pinto or do you want a Lexus? And so you can't trade your body in for a new one either. So it's more important than the car. But I'm telling you, your organs don't just happen to stop for no reason whatsoever. And I'll tell you the other thing that it's not. It's not you have it because mom has it, or you had it because mom and grandma and your sister has it. It can't be genetic. But this idea that this is somehow genetic, the literature doesn't support that, and research doesn't support that either. If you got it because mom had it, you would have been born with it. If it was something genetic, why did you not have it at 35 and you had it at 40? Your genes did not change. So if you have something that's genetic, you would have been born with it. It would not all of a sudden you get it. Now, it is possible that you have the genetic likelihood of getting it, but something environmental had to turn that gene on at 40 that it did not turn it on at 35. Well, guess what? If it was turned off at 35, it can stay turned off at 40. Something happened to turn that bad gene on, and this is a new field of genetics called epigenetics. Epigenetics means what is turning your bad genes on and how do you get them to turn back off. And that's some of the stuff that we look at in our functional medicine and our natural health care program is some of this epigenetic stuff, like how do we keep your bad genes from turning themselves on, and how do we keep your good genes turned on where you won't get some of these genetic things. But it's pretty complicated. I'm not going to get into all that here. We'll talk a little bit more about that at the workshop. But this idea of I got it because mom got it, I don't buy that. And so we're going to get into a little bit of the epigenetic stuff at the workshop on the July 2nd. I'm going to show you some ways to keep your bad genes turned off. But even if you do have the genetic propensity to get a disease, it's environmental reasons that turn that gene on. And if you can keep those environmental reasons away, that gene will never manifest itself. And so that's very important. So it's not old age, it's not genetic, and it's not normal. Something is going on that has caused your organs to malfunction and your thyroid has stopped working. Now, in order to determine what that is, we first have to start with this idea of the assembly line that it takes in order to end up with healthy thyroid hormones. And the system starts with iodine. You get iodine from your food, and that iodine goes into your thyroid cell, and it's used to make thyroid hormone. In fact, the T3 and the T4 that you get tested with thyroid problems, the 3 and the 4 are the iodine molecules involved. So T3 has 3 iodine molecules, and T4 has 4. So iodine is the number in the 3 and the 4 when it comes to thyroid hormones. So iodine is critically important. So we get the iodine from our food, but over 50% of the population lives in an iodine-deficient area.
So if you eat processed food and the junk food that most Americans eat all the time, it's highly processed, it doesn't have any iodine in it. And so we want to check that. We want to make sure that the raw materials are present. If you're going to build a house, you got to have bricks and mortar. You got to have wood. You can't do it without that. So we have to check that. Now, that iodine has to get inside the cell. And you have iodine receptors that bring the iodine from outside the cell inside the cell. But heavy metals like lead, mercury, cadmium, and arsenic can block off those receptors, and we have to check for that as well. We find toxic levels of heavy metals in almost in every single week in my practice. We find extremely high levels of heavy metals. Now, if heavy metals are blocking the iodine from reaching the cell, you don't make thyroid hormone. And if you don't have enough iodine present, the raw materials present, you don't make thyroid hormone. And so we have to check these two things. Next in the assembly line is it uses an enzyme to join these iodines together, and that enzyme can be attacked by the immune system. And if that's happening, you don't make thyroid hormone. But also if that's happening, you have an autoimmune disease. And then we need to change our focus from the thyroid system to the immune system, because that's where the problem is. Because if you're autoimmune, that means that your immune system is attacking and stopping your thyroid from working. And if you're ever going to get to the bottom of it, you have to be looking at the right system. So if the immune system is attacking the thyroid, you don't make thyroid hormone. Now, the next step in the assembly line is there's a second enzyme that carries this newly made thyroid hormone called T4. It carries that to the liver and stomach, where one of those iodines is taken off to make T3. So if your liver and stomach are so polluted and unhealthy that they cannot convert T4 to T3, you don't make thyroid hormone. And that's not really a thyroid problem either. That's a liver and stomach problem, which again, we find all the time. So we have to make sure that your body has the physical ability to make these conversions, or once again, you don't make thyroid hormone. So using this assembly line theory, we can answer that very important question, and I repeat it every single time I'm looking at a patient with pretty much any health problem. Why are the cells doing what they're doing? And is there anything I can do to make those cells work better? And the answer to that question is usually yes. There's tons of things we can do to make your cells work better in almost every specific area of the body. From getting rid of the heavy metals, to supplementing iodine, to calming down the immune system, to detoxifying the liver, to repairing the digestive system. I mean, all of these things come into effect. And now, do you understand, guys, now why this is complicated? You can't spend 3 minutes looking at this and expect to ever figure all this out. This is complex. And that's why I was saying earlier, this stuff can get a little hard to explain on the radio. And at the workshop, I'm going to sit down and lay all of this out where it's fully understandable. And here's the other thing, guys. If I do 4 things to try to help this, and each one of those just helps you 25%, you're all the way there. We don't have to find the magic bullet. If I do 5 things, and one of them I was completely crazy, made no sense, I was in left field, don't know what I was thinking, had nothing to do with it, and the other 4 help you 20%, you're 80% better. So it's not a silver bullet kind of thing where we find the magic thing that's caused all this. Usually it's a culmination of things. And we go over each one of these possibilities at the workshop to find out what kind of a package of things it would look like to solve these type of problems. Now, the workshop is going to be July the 2nd in Broussard, and I want to invite any of you out there that don't feel your best and you want to come see why that may be, and hear all of the different possibilities to help you live a better life. The number's 837-7174. Just leave your name on the machine. We'll call you Monday. That's 837-7174. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Get Well Acadiana with Dr. Kevin. I hope you enjoyed our show today, but more importantly, I hope that you understood how important it is
to do everything you can to solve your health problems once and for all. And I hope that I've been able to encourage all of you to do the things that are going to allow you to be healthy and functional for years into the future. And we touched on a few of those points on the thyroid and how important that is in the functioning of almost your entire body. And you know what else, guys? The concepts that I talked about today really work for things other than just your thyroid. If you're suffering with health problems, let's take a look and see if we can figure out what it is, where your body is breaking down, and see if we can figure that out. And so people really don't understand how their thyroid hormone is critical to almost every single bodily function. And like I said, every cell in your body has a thyroid receptor. Thyroid hormones is what allows your cells to convert food into usable energy, like your car converts gasoline into energy. I know I use car analogies a lot on the show, guys, but I'm a car guy. I love cars, and so I use car analogies all the time for some reason. But yes, just like your car converts gas into energy, thyroid hormone is that fuel. It's just like gas for your car. It allows your cells to convert food into usable energy, and that's why it affects so many different things in your body in such profound ways. So at the workshop, I'm going to go through each step, and we're going to look at this assembly line process and how important this concept is that's allowed us to help so many people with some of these complex, difficult to treat health problems. It goes from iodine to tyrosine to TPO to T4 to TBG to T3. So you got to look at all that stuff. And just like an assembly line in your car, if one person puts the wheel on and another person puts the door on and another person puts the headlights on, and every time a car comes out of the assembly line, the door's on crooked, you're going to pretty much know who to go to blame for that problem. And that's what we do whenever it comes to how the body functions. Now, we have to do all of the necessary testing in each step to figure out what the body is telling us if we're ever going to get in the ballpark of figuring something like this out. So I wanted to invite all of you guys to come to this workshop. It is going to be unlike anything you've ever heard for thyroid. We're going to break this whole system down, and you're going to leave there with a full understanding of how all this works. It's going to be July the 2nd at 6:30 p.m. at the Hampton Inn Conference Room in Broussard. You can call and register at 837-7174. That's 837-7174. I really appreciate in each and every listener out there. Thank you guys for listening. Have a good weekend. We'll talk next week.